What's up everybody, how's it going? I know it's been a while since I've done one of these, and I just wanted to give you an update, kind of let you know that I'm still here, I'm still in the shop, and I still got projects coming. I just got really busy with a client job, and I kind of wanted to talk to you a little bit about that, and that's what this thing is behind me. And I'm gonna give you a little explanation as to what it is, where it's going, and what's coming up. You guys will have to excuse my messy shop. It always gets like this when I am mid-project, and I've got a whole bunch of alder right here, and that alder is being used on these booths. And yeah, I said booth because this is a restaurant booth, and this is just one section of many that I'm doing for a client. You'll see I've got a bit of a chevron pattern going on. I've got these boards going this way, and then as they get to the corner, they just follow and go the other way, giving us that chevron pattern. And we've got the corners all trimmed out and the bottom edges and everything. And if you can tell that this wood has some shadow to it, that's because these boards are varying thickness. So the varying thickness of the boards, I think is really cool. I think I saw the idea maybe on Pinterest at some point. And one of the things that I think is really cool about how this booth is coming along is that all these boards I have planed down to different thicknesses. So I've got 3 different thicknesses going on. I've got some 1/2 inch, and I've got some 3/8, and I've got some 1/4 inch. So what that does is it gives like sort of a 3-dimensional look. I really wanted to try it. And so when I pitched the idea to my client, he was super into it. So the fact that he was excited about it, it got me excited about it.
However,
as I'm working along, I'm finding a few little things that are becoming kind of tedious. Let me show you what I mean. One thing I didn't think of until after I started laying down the pattern, since this is gonna be in a restaurant, there is the potential that food could drop down or other particles, crumbs, or who knows what. A restaurant gets really grimy and really gross really fast. And so one thing that I didn't anticipate was, because of the different thicknesses of the wood, when I put this trim along certain areas, there would be gaps. And so my concern was that food was gonna be falling in the gaps. I wanted to address that because also these gaps didn't look good. I want the booth to look good. So I came up with a plan, but let me show you a little bit of what I mean by the gap. So here I am on the back side of this particular section of booth, and I wanna show you what I'm talking about with the gaps and applying the trim. So this is a piece of custom trim that I'm making out of alder. I've also got a note on this because you see this whammy I have here on my finger? More on that coming in just a minute. But this is the custom trim, and it's gonna go along where trim would go, along the edges, along the corners, and all that stuff. So when I put the trim down in place, you can see what I mean about there being a gap between the thinner boards. So the boards that aren't quite as thick are gonna have a gap between the trim and the board themselves. So to solve that problem, what I've got to do is basically make these little wedges that I need to come and insert into each of these spots where the trim has a gap. So what I need to do is make sure that the thickness is right, cut them down, miter the corners, and then slip them in. And then when I put the trim on there, I can, do a finish nail in place, and it'll be all good. And here you can see that the gap is no longer there because I used my little shim system and filled in all these gaps. But that's just one of those unexpected things that comes up when doing a custom project. You can design it, you can plan it, you can pitch it, you can start to build it, but I feel like there's always gonna be something that you run into that you weren't planning for. And when you do that, you're just gonna have to adapt and find a solution. Now let me talk to you about this finger. You know when they say you put your blood, sweat, and tears into something? Well, I don't have any tears yet, but I definitely have a lot of sweat, and on this one I actually got some blood. That's right, I had my first table saw accident. And it's not something I'm proud of, and it could have been avoided. And it all happened when I was making this custom trim for these booths. And it was just a simple case of you took your mind off what you were doing for 1 second. So let me explain to you exactly what I was doing, how it happened, and how I'm gonna prevent it in the future. So this is the custom trim that I'm making. It's nothing fancy, nothing super special. The way I'm making this trim is I'm taking some of the raw alder lumber and I'm ripping it down to 1.5 inch width. Alder itself is thick enough to where I can get, and the alder is thick enough to where I could get 2 pieces out of this. You can see. So once I rip these down, then I send them through the router and I put my radius on. And now you can see I've got 4 radiused edges on that one piece of wood. Now what I want to do is cut this way so I can get 2 pieces of trim. Watch. So the problem was that I got my finger too close to the blade. Duh. I think I just took my mind off of what I was doing for 1 fraction of a second, and that's all it takes. That one fraction of a second, you can hit that blade and there's blood everywhere. Fortunately for me, it wasn't too bad, because I think we've all seen table saw accidents, or we've heard of table saw accidents, or somebody getting injured on one of their power tools. As soon as that blade hits my finger, I was like, oh my gosh, how bad is it gonna be? It really didn't sink in for about a second until I realized, oh man, I hit my finger with my blade. Usually when I'm pushing stuff through the table saw and coming right up to the blade, I always stop my left hand right at the beginning of the throat plate, which is a pretty safe spot to stop. And then I continue to push with my push stick. But in this particular case, for some strange reason, I kept my hand on my workpiece just too long, and before you knew it, boom, cut. So I know we all know to play it safe in the shop, and I usually do, and this was just an accident. So hopefully you guys can learn from my mistake. Pay extra close attention if you're trying to do a very particular cut. Be super careful, keep your mind on your work, and hopefully you won't end up with this or worse, because if I had hit the bone or done any worse than this, I would be out of commission for a little while, and I really can't afford that with this huge project. And speaking of this being a huge project, I've mentioned in the past how sometimes my projects tend to overflow into other parts of my house, and let me show you what I mean by that, because it's happening again. So as you know, this one section of booth right here is currently in progress, and we can come out to my porch, and I've got another section that I've started that's out here sitting on the porch. And if we look just past that, I've got 2x4s over here to frame even more sections of booth, and I've got more alder over here. This is like my second or third run of alder, and I'm gonna have to go back and probably make 2 or 3 more runs of alder just to finish this project. Now let's move on to the inside where I've got more stuff. All right, so I've moved into the family room of my house, and you can see once again, I got a booth here, I got a booth here, I got another couple of booth sections back there. So these 2 sections of booth right here, these are gonna get connected back to back. I'll show you a rendering real quick. On the front side here, I just used cheaper plywood because this is the alder, this is the alder, this is alder, this is alder, but this part's gonna be covered by a cushion, so I figured why waste the money on the alder when I can just use a cheaper material like plywood. And while it's a little hard to see in this configuration because they're stacked to save space right now, these 2 sections of booth are gonna go side by side. So it's gonna be like this 10-foot section. You can also see some batting here because that's gonna be for the cushions. We picked up a lot of foam recently. I never even thought that I would buy that much foam ever in my life. And yet here I am buying a lot of foam. In addition to doing all these booths, I'm also refinishing a few tabletops. They were really grimy and really rough. So I've done some resurfacing of tabletops before, which you may or may not have seen on my Instagram. But my awesome wife chipped in again, and she sanded these and she put on a new coat of finish. I think we're at like 6 or 7 coats of General Finishes Armor Seal in the semi-gloss. But let me show you one more room where we've got all the foam stored. This is the guest room where we store the foam. And here's the fabric for the booths. It's kind of a gold color. It's kind of hard to tell in this room in this light. I never thought I'd see so much foam in my life, especially in my own house on one of the projects that I'm working on. But it's here, it's comfy, and it's gonna be awesome when it's all said and done. So that's it, you guys. I know it was a really short video, but I just wanted to give you guys an update, show you what I was working on, let you know I'm excited about that, and that I'm excited to bring you more videos. I promise they are coming. I just got to get through this project. I'm trying to do some editing at night, so hopefully I can finish up and wrap up some videos. Even though this video was super short, I hope I can still get a thumbs up from you guys. If not for the project, for the safety tip, I don't know. I'm trying, vlogging is not my strong suit. I'm still getting used to it, still getting used to being in front of the camera and just letting it all go, you know? If you would, I would love to have you subscribe as well. Also, I'm gonna have a link to my wife's channel down below. It's called What's Up in the Garden, and she's just gonna be showing what's up in the garden. She's gonna talk about her plants and the landscaping. We've got a few outside projects coming up as well that we're gonna kind of collaborate on. So subscribe to her channel if you would and show her some love. We're just trying to figure it out. You know, it's a lot of fun to work together, and for us to both be able to have a YouTube presence is gonna be really exciting. Stick around, I hope to see you soon. Follow me on Instagram if you are not already following me, because I post a lot of stuff there, so that'll give you an idea of what's coming out here in YouTube also. All right, thank you guys, we'll see you later.